Om. Sairam, everyone. We are at this at the point in this Sandeha Nivarini where Swami has just completed reciting what Swami calls a Burra Katha, or a folk song, where Swami talked about life of a human being, which he calls a puppet. This puppet is pulled by the world by a few strings, which are kama, krodha, and so on, which is desire, anger, and such qualities. Because of the senses, they pull this puppet. On the other hand, God pulls using dharma and karma. This puppet caught between these two sets of pulls thinks that it is doing everything, whereas actually God is the one who pulls using dharma and karma. When it is unable to align itself, it goes into suffering, and then Swami assures that you are lucky that you have got Sai Krishna as a guide in this world. Think of him and attain salvation. And that is where we left off, I think, last time. We can continue from that point today. Sairam. Sairam, Sister Kalyani, please go ahead.
Bhakta. I have understood. I have clearly understood that I am not the body, the buddhi, intellect, the manas, or the chittam. When I am not any of these, I must be only the Atma. And if I am the Atma, then I am the Paramatma. And so everything is Paramatma. All this I have understood. Believing out of ignorance that I am this body and this intellect, this deha, body, and this buddhi, we are experiencing all these miseries. True, true. We are passing through all that you said now, one after the other, as beads in a string. Oh, what a truth, what a truth. Listening to this song is enough. The brain, as you said, turns to Vairagya. Swami, I felt very disappointed when you first said that you had no time to spare, but that was due to my ignorance. Though I knew that our Swami will never disappoint anyone or cause trouble, I felt as if you had conferred even more ananda now than what I thought I would get. How is your kindness to be described? They sing of you, for a single drop of tear, Sai will melt. And they say you can never bear to see us suffer. This is proof of the truth of these. Shall I take leave?
I think you can read the next paragraph also, sister. I think if it's okay. That's the end of the chapter.
Swami, very good. Go and come again. I too have no time to spare. I have to see and send those who are going to their places.
Thank you very much. You can go back. So as you can see, the devotee or bhakta is summarizing whatever he has learned. That even though Swami starts out saying that I'm not going to tell you who you are today, but I'm going to tell you a story. And basically in that, Swami has explained that one is not the body, the mind, or the other aspects of the mind, which we usually delude ourselves into thinking. And Swami says you are the Atma, or the Bhakta realizes that you are the Atma by default, by negating everything else. And Swami says by listening to this, you will develop what's called vairagya. Vairagya is without any likes, being detached, because that is precondition for us to realize who we are. And I think that's what Swami was trying to do, to cultivate that vairagya. So I will stop here, pause here, and if anyone would like to share your thoughts, please go ahead.
Sai Ram, I want to give my input on this in this paragraph, and it is. I was thinking about this last night. I read this paragraph a couple of times and thinking over it last night. And sometimes we are thinking, we are trying to convince our mind, okay, we are not the body, we are not the mind, we are something like that. But in this paragraph, Swami describing, this is sort of an enlightenment to that bhakta. To me, that is my understanding. Say, for instance, to see a play in a stage, the curtain has to be removed. And if it is a movie theater, the light has to be, the projected light has to be on the screen. That is the sort of an illumination there. Then only it enlightens to the Atma. I am not the body, I am not the mind, sort of things. That is my understanding in this one. So at this stage, the bhakta understands he's the Atma itself. So that's what happened to Swami. When Swami left at the age of 14, when he was saying, my Maya is, I am out of the Maya. I'm Maya. I am free from Maya, and I have come to this world to help my devotees. That even Ramana Maharishi, that's what happened when he was at 16. I think he left his home because maybe he, due to his previous karmas in the past, maybe he wanted to finish off that throughout this the present life. Maybe that's the reason he came back to this world again, and then he was enlightened. The same aspect must be, I think I should have that kind of enlightenment within myself. No, I am not the mind. I am the Atma itself. I don't have to convince my mind, but it has to be enlightened to me itself. Thank you, Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, brother. Anyone else would like to share your thoughts, please?
So, Sai Ram, brother. So when we go through the songs over and over and again, we get the knowledge, and that's what then we get the knowledge and vairagya. This will lead us to the spiritual path. First, we have to get knowledge first, wisdom and intellect. Thank you, brother Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. Anyone else would like to say something, please? See, I think there's one sentence where, the devotee is saying, Swami, I felt very disappointed when you said that you had no time to spare. And if you look at the last paragraph also, Swami says, I have no time to spare, I have things to do. I think there's a particular purpose for Swami writing those. Because as you can see, he's not whiling away any time. Swami has been constantly working on the welfare of the devotees. If he has no time, means he has no time because he's so occupied with only that task of helping people or being serious about what he has taken up to do. So I think Swami is also telling us in the path of spirituality, we too have to work hard. We have to work without a break of sorts. I think that's why Swami is saying that. If Swami himself, who doesn't have to do anything, if he's doing like that, how serious and we have to be, how much positive use the time of time we have to focus on, but rather than failing to do that by being through distractions of other things or just whiling away the time. And I think that Swami is trying to stress in a very indirect way that when he's working so hard as a teacher, I think as students we should work harder. That's what I thought. It sort of struck me. If anyone else has something to say, we can pause. Otherwise, we can go on to read the next chapter.
Brother Sairam, the Vairagya word, can we get some more clarification on Vairagya, the word Swami using here, please?
Okay, sure. I think last time also I mentioned, Vairagya comes from a word called Viraga. Viraga is a word comes from Raga. Raga here means attachment, likes, actually more than attachment, likes. So Swami always uses the word Raga and Dvesha. You like something or you hate something. Raga, Dvesha. This is the way of the world. So the thing is, it's very easy to give up Dvesha. What you don't like, you know how to give up. But the problem comes giving up what we like. So the Raga is a bigger problem for human beings. Whatever we like is a bigger problem. So Viraga means that someone who does not have likes. Viraga, without raga, without likes. From that, we developed a quality called Vairagya. From that is derived the state of Vairagya, which basically being detached. So to become detached, we should give up what we like. It's easy for us to give up what we don't like. But we need to practice our practice should be to learn to give up all that we like one by one. That's the only way we are going to reach the state of Vairagya. Giving up what we like. So I think that's my understanding. If anyone else would like to. I think Swami has used the word ceiling on desires, which is more or less that. It's we like to say ceiling on desires, and the ceiling is so high up. So I think the ceiling has to come down slowly. We have to reduce the height of the ceiling so that we slowly develop Vairagya. Sairam, Sister Kalyani, I think we could proceed.
Sorry, brother. I have one more question here. Swami is saying for a single drop of tear, Sai will melt. Is it for worldly matters or for the aspirant to reach him? We are crying, Swami, I want to reach you. That sort of a crying, or for the worldly matters, Swami, we didn't get this, and then we are also crying for that too. So what is that sort of what is that Swami is telling us here? Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, brother. I will open it up for anyone else to comment on this, please. It's a good question.
So, Sairam, brother, so when you think about the tear, when you're praying, that time you detach everything, you focus all your senses invertedly. That time you'll get the tears. You surrender everything. That moment. It is very difficult to explain that position under the bliss state. This will one of the way that comes, the tear will come. Thank you, Sairam, brother.
Anyone else would like to answer Brother Arul's question? He's asking the tear we drop, which God will melt for, does it relate to the worldly desires as well, or worldly pain as well? Is a question which Brother Arul is asking, or is it just for spiritual enlightenment?
Sairam, actually, Baba says if you give one drop of tear, I will wipe 10 drops of tear. So at the beginning, we see that all Sai devotees see that in the beginning, we might be praying for worldly things like disease or some other very difficult situations the people face, then they might cry out with sincere faith in him. At that time also Bhagavan has given solace to the devotees so that they improve in spiritual path. So they are saying that people are singing in the bhajan. If we give one tear, one drop of tear, and Sai will melt through devotion. Actually, through devotion, if we drop one tear through devotion, and Sai will melt, and he will give grace and lift us up towards spirituality. That's the meaning here. But we have seen, the devotees have seen that at the time of very difficulty, even for the worldly things, Bhagavan tries to help us get rid of this sorrow. That's what I see that. Thank you, Saira.
Thank you, Brother Sai. Anyone else would like to say anything?
Sairam. As Swami has said that your diseases are your guru. So because of that, you are coming to me, and then that leads you to me. So Swami has cured so many diseases, so many people. So it's for both the spiritual and worldly, but also Swami has said, I give you what you wanted so that you will want what I have come to give you. So it's a process of evolvement. Swami has been doing all this, but eventually it also depends on the individual devotees.
Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to say something?
Sairam, when I look at that particular phrase, for a single drop of tears, I will melt, in this particular context, I believe it would go with both, because practically speaking, we always have the sorrow tear more than the happy tear. You know, the real happy tear, it would come when you reach to the ultimate stage of in your meditation. That is the very Ananda stage. Only in that stage we would be having the real happy tear. If Swami meant by this one only for the spiritual the side, then the next sentence here, the Bhakta saying, they say you can never bear to see us suffer. So that particular the clause in this paragraph, it says that we could have both the happy tear and the sorrow tear in our life, but Swami will melt for both tear. That's my humble understanding on this one. It could be both happy tear as well as the sorrow tear. Swami will help us in both stages, and Swami will certainly melt when we have the tear with the ultimate surrendering to him. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, sister.
So, Sairam, brother, one more example. If son is crying for an iPhone and father is looking at him, he is nagging and crying. So, other son thanking for everything and putting the cry out for everything, whatever he have done. That time, father will bless the second son. But he may get, the first son might get the phone, but the blessing from the tear of the drop without any expectation, thanking and everything, you'll get the blessed. Thank you, Brother Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, brother.
Hi, Ram. You know, in Balika's class, I tell the kids how many times you see kids throwing a temper tantrum, you know, in the mall, wanting something, not wanting something, losing something. But how many times we have cried for God, right? I think that applies to us also. How many times you've cried for God? And I'd just like to share a short story, the story of Swami Chaitanya Prabhu. His disciple is the one who started the Hare Krishna movement. Swami Chaitanya in, I think it was Jagannath temple, somewhere towards the back of the temple, if you find the spot, there is like a kuli or a depression on the floor. And how that supposedly came is this Swamiji stood there for hours and hours at end, looking at Jagannath, crying intensely, with longing for him, missing him, with so much devotion. There was so much tears. Eventually it even melted the flow, sort of. So that's a long way for us to reach. But once in a while, I think that intense longing or yearning is good. I think that it establishes the connection faster, or even one Gayatri Mantra with so much intensity is better than 108 or 21 or something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Just a slight clarification for sister's story about Jagannath and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, the hole is on the wall. It's a depression on the wall on the left hand side, because in Jagannath Puri, you have to go near that wall on the left hand side, and then only you have to look. Then only you are able to look at the Lord Jagannath, because the Lord Jagannath Vigraha is slightly to the right of the door. So to get a good look, you have to go to the left side. So it's believed that he used to press his hand on that wall and rest his head on that hand, and he used to keep on watching Jagannath. Apparently, he stood there for years, and because of that, where he used to rest his thumb, that has become a depression on the wall. So people, even today, you go and put their thumb there, rest their head on the hand, and watch Lord Jagannath. Just that is the kind of intense yearning. Thank you very much, sister.
Just wondering, has anybody been there and seen that?
I have been there and seen that, sister.
Oh my gosh.
I have rested my thumb there and looked at Jagannath. Swami, that's a story by itself. Another time I will tell. But yes, it's a wonderful experience. It's accidentally I went there and had to go and see that, I guess.
Yeah, at this point, I want to also illustrate a story about Nandanar. Like he was not let into the temple, and then he was begging the Nandi to please make a move so I could have a glance of the Vigraha in Chidambaram. That's what I don't know. I studied the story very long time ago. Maybe that could be a better thing. Like actually, he was yearning for that kind of vision of that Swami, that God. That's sort of because most of the time we cry for worldly things, worldly matters. To my understanding, it's worldly matters we cry, and after maybe 3-4 years, I used to wonder, why did I cry for that small thing? Because that's nothing. It's I should bear for Swami's grace. That's my take on this. I don't know about this paragraph, but my take on this is we should be crying or whatever it is to have the grace of the God. Because even at the devotion, there's in the bhajan hall, when somebody is singing a bhajan with very devotion, we cry, right? Many people, they say tears, or if you check their cheeks, they're all crying, because they are absorbed, not only because they are absorbed into that tune or in the raga, tala, but they are absorbed into this in the God itself. That's the beauty in that bhajan, right? Thank you, Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. Anyone else would like to say something?
I remember.
Yes, brother.
Yeah, that Swami is like a mother, 1,000 mothers, equal to 1,000 mothers. The children has different stages. They are asking each one is different things. So if we cry for the things, for sure that our mother give the things. While that when our divine mother, she is melted our request all the time. And when we are asking, she never say no. I mentioned that for sure all the things also they accepted that, and also spiritual things. Thank you, Sai.
Sairam. So I think it's a good question we should ask ourselves. What makes us suffer? I think that was what was described in the story with Swami as the folk song. We suffer because we don't know who we are. So the Lord is always trying to make us realize, make us grow and realize who we are. I think that is the ultimate way by which He can remove our suffering. But in the interim, He may do a variety of things. He may say yes, He may say no, depending on what our stage of growth is, I guess. If a child is asking for chocolate, not every time the mother will give, but sometimes she may oblige. She alone knows how to do it, when to do it, but ultimately she would like the child to grow up as an adult and make their own choices. So I think ultimately the suffering will go only when we realize that we are Atman or Paramatman, that we are not the body. So whatever Swami does, he's always trying to get us to that place. How he gets us to that place is up to him. So I think that's a real suffering, and that's what he really wants us to overcome. Everyone in this world asks God for a variety of things, and God is the one who is giving, and whatever He gives, we are never satisfied. The fact that we are breathing itself is His grace, and if you're able to see anything, that is His grace. If we're able to talk, it is His grace. But we don't pay attention to that even. But ultimately, the suffering will go only when we realize that we are not the body. So He will do whatever it takes to get us there. So that's what I understand. He's doing it only because of compassion. So with those thoughts, I think we can move on to the next chapter. Sairam, Sister Kalyani.
I just have one more question about this paragraph. Is vairagya, is that something that we should try to practice, or is that something that we just naturally comes as we, I guess, progress towards enlightenment? Because I guess if you try to practice it, do you run the risk of maybe being cold-hearted, or like do you run that risk if you're trying to detach yourself from other people?
Very, very good question, sister.
Yes,
I think
I like it.
Please, someone can go ahead and.
So brother, my understanding is Vairagya, when you practice something little bit and with the devotion only, you can get rid of that one. You need to have God's grace to get rid of all those one. Thank you, brother Saira.
Anyone else?
In this, Sairam, in this context, the devotee or Baba is saying, listening to this song gives us a vairagya. So that means the impermanency and the fruitlessness of this birth and dying, taking birth and dying, and so much of but there's no meaning in this life. So anytime that we have to leave the world. So based on that, Bhagawan saying, when we understand the temporary nature of this worldly life, and the detachment automatically comes to us. So, I think only the experience will give us the detachment. No, thank you, Saira.
Saira. I think anyone else would like to?
Sairam, yeah, I agree with Sivaraj what said. However much you study all this, unless you some experience, some kind of experience has to make the change or the catalyst or whatever you say. Because for that, I don't know, maybe there's some point God's grace also has to help. Just by reading and listening for years and years, that change may not happen unless some experience make the change. For that, Swami has to help. Saira.
Saira, sister, maybe I will take a crack at your question. See, what happens in this world is all of us are attached. I think no one has a problem with that. Everyone is attached. We like certain things, certain people, and so on. So from that, we have to come to a point of detachment. So I think many times when if it's a pendulum, it's on this side. When it wants to come to the middle, it has to swing. And when it swings, it is generally going to end up on the other side. So for a period of time, then we will know, okay, we have gone to the other side of being cold-hearted. But then only that is the process which is going to bring us to the middle. So generally, we will have a pendulum swinging back and forth. Like, for example, we may become very cold-hearted. We may become a little more like on the other side. But gradually, it's going to come to the bottom, where it's neither attached nor it is detached. That is the state of vairagya. So, for example, if you want to give up something, initially you have to put in a lot of effort, with a lot of hard effort. And yes, it may seem like cold-hearted, but it is cold-hearted for the right reason. Swami gives this example, very fine, nice example. As a student, in one of the discourses, he was telling why Indians don't do as well. Was a talk which Swami gave to the students. For that, what he was telling was, if you take an Indian mother or a Sri Lankan mother, Asian mother, I would say, if it's a small toddler and they want to get them to walk, apparently they will go and put them at the end of a corridor, and then they will tell the child to walk, and they will stand on the other side, and the child will take 1 or 2 steps and fall down. As soon as it falls down, the mother will rush and they will pick it up and say, oh, where did it, where I hurt, and things like that. They're more worried about the child being hurt, though it has just fallen, 1 or 2 feet, and maybe landed, and maybe it's a bit hurt. And then they will say, okay, now we'll stop this practice and we'll come back tomorrow. And every day it keeps on repeating. Swami says, the best mothers are Jewish mothers. That's what Swami said in that talk. What he says is, they will put the child and they will stand on the other side and they will say, walk. And the child will walk and it fall down. Then they will stand where they are and they will say, get up, get up, get up and walk. Then the child will get up and walk and again fall down. They will say, get up and walk. So the thing is the mother doing with love, or is she being cold-hearted, is the question here. The mother wants the child to learn something of a higher nature, of something better for its own betterment. So to some extent, she may have to withstand the pain, but it's ultimately love that my child should become independent. But in the other case, where the mother goes and hugs up, the mother is very happy that the child is dependent on her. Because that also gives a certain selfish satisfaction for parents. So sometimes it's a matter of discrimination, I think. But sometimes we may swing a little far further and be maybe a bit cold-hearted, but then we can course correct ourselves slowly. Is what I understand. But we have to take that step, because without that we are not going to develop Vairagya. It's my understanding. So I will stop here. I don't know
Thank
if it
you.
answered your question. First day we are not going to get it right. It's like driving, somebody learning to drive, the steering will go this way, that way. But with a lot of practice, then you will hold it steady. You should neither go that way nor go this way. But it takes time. By practice, I guess. So please go ahead and we can read the next chapter.
Chapter 6, Bhakta. Namaste, Swami. Swami, Subhamastu. Bhakta. With your grace, everything is Subham, auspicious. Without it, everything is Asubham, inauspicious. Swami. Good, but have you realized how both these are based on grace? In one, both subsist. Both are conferred by the self-same grace. Well, let that topic stand by. Last time you got a folk poem to digest, and it must have affected your thoughts deeply. Now, in what stage of equanimity is your brain?
Thank you very much, sister. We can, I think Swami, I think it's pretty straightforward. So I will let the participants share your thoughts, please.
Just to clarify, when Swami is saying it, in one both subsist and both are conferred by the self-same grace, is he referring to earlier when he gave the example of light and darkness, how darkness is in the light? So similarly, vidya and avidya, both are the same.
Yes, sister, I think so. The presence or the absence is what differentiates between Shubham and Ashubham, light and darkness. The presence of the sun is what I understand.
Thank you.
See, Swami is saying it should have affected your thoughts profusely or deeply. So I don't know whether it has affected our thoughts also deeply. Swami's folk poem. And so I think he says that if we read that, we will achieve equanimity. Equanimity is the result of reading and studying and digesting that poem, is what Swami says, I think. Next time when something bad happens, if we are equanimous, then maybe we have digested that poem well. Does anyone have anything to say, please?
Sairam, in this Swami's reply, Swami referred to the word self-same grace. Is there any particular meaning for that self-same, that particular word? Because maybe the other people may know that, but I have seen this word only in this particular answering from Swami. Is there any the particular meaning for that one, or whether can anybody elaborate on that one? The self-same grace, is it different from the other meaning? Rather than saying the conferred by the Swami's grace or my grace, why Swami indicated self-same grace? So that word's just sticking in my mind. What would be the maybe the meaning for that one in this particular context. Thank you, Saira.
I just Googled the word self-same and it means exactly the same. That's just the definition.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah, exactly the same.
Yeah.
Saira, usually this word is used because the two opposite things are given by one source, no? So which is contradicting. The Subham and Asubham are opposite in nature, but the only it comes from one aspect, one grace. So usually they demarcate when the contexts are like that, then the English language demarcate that same grace. Whether it is bad or good, the same grace is giving us. So that is insisted in this language, no? So that's what usually, that's my understanding. Usually it is like that. So naturally, everybody is now suspicious because Swam also, good thing also happened through his grace and bad also happened through his grace. So in fact, and also it is said that Subham is hidden in Asubham and Asubham is hidden in Subham. So when we have Subham, automatically there will be Asubham as well next day or some day after. So both are impermanent, like both we have to transcend both Subham and Asubham according to my understanding. Thank you, Sairam. Brother, I don't know, any other body can further explain. Okay.
Sairam, it's a Asubham. How come that become a Swami's grace then? Because Swami is always, we think his grace is always for bliss or positive side, right? But how come Swami's grace comes to a Asubham too?
That is the trick now. That is the equanimity. Equanimity will be a reality only through both Subham and Asubham. If it is only Subham, we can't expect equanimity to happen. If it is only Asubham, it will not happen. So both is the grace of God, because who else can give Asubham? So that's the spirituality is so subtle, and a good example, brother, I don't know, and he can explain this very well more. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I really thinking of Asubham is a grace from Swami. That is something we have to think, analyze that part. Thank you.
Sairam, when I look at this auspicious and inauspicious, I thought whether it can be categorized as auspicious or inauspicious, depending on our mindset. I can say this is auspicious. Someone else can say this is inauspicious for me. So there is no such auspicious or inauspicious. Everything, it depends on our mindset. That's what I think in this one. Maybe the others may have different opinion, but I think auspicious or inauspicious, it depending on our mindset. That's why Swami always say every day is an auspicious day. There's no inauspicious day. In Swami's blessing, every day is an auspicious day. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam. So I think there are two questions being discussed here. I think the first one is, I think self-same was a question which Sister Ananthi asked. See, in translation, many words are used, sister. In the Telugu, Swami has not used the word self-same or even exactly. Swami basically says, Okka Dayandu, means in one. In Tamil, we will say Ore, not Oru. Oru Dayayil. Ore Dayayil means is putting a stress. In one, in Daya, or compassion, both are present. How do you know how? This question Swami asked. Then he goes on to say, in everything in this world, two things are always subsisting in the same. Because in the world of duality, two things come together, and they are related to each other, and they cannot exist without the other. I think that's what Swami wants us to understand. Because in this world, we always want something which we like, something which we don't like, we don't want. Don't like, not good. I'm not talking about good and bad. About liking and disliking, darkness and light, both have to exist one after the other. That is the way this world is. But we somehow want a world where one thing goes away. And I think that is a struggle because of which we all suffer. When the opposite thing comes to what we like, we always suffer. But we should understand in this world, in this created world, that is unavoidable, completely unavoidable. But both exist. And then Swami says, in the case of so that Swami is talking about three things: grace, Shubham, and Ashubham. Okay. In this, we should understand Shubham and Ashubham will always go back and forth. We cannot change it. Everything is either auspicious or inauspicious. But what is constant in all this is grace. Grace is always there, and that is not going to change. So then, if you just hold on to that grace alone, actually everything will be Shubham, because you are not even worried about either Shubham or Ashubham, because grace itself is Shubham. So he wants us to find that which does not change and hold on to it tight, so that we are not affected by the worldly auspiciousness and worldly inauspiciousness. So in this world, this is going to be the reality. God and the Maya will always have two things. That is the nature of Maya, because Maya has both good and positive and negative. But Swami says we have to rise above, hold on to the Lord, who is neither positive or negative, and just hold on to Him and let the world and the experience of the world go by. I think that's what Swami wants us to understand. That's why he says you have to have equanimity. See, Swami is very clever, even though he says, let it be there, and then he is asking, if you listen to that folk song and know that in life both are there, joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain, everything is there in this world. Once you know that, you'll never cry or suffer when there's pain. You will accept that also, even though it's painful, mentally you will not suffer, knowing very well it relates to the world. The Lord is always there with me. And that is the only thing which will give us equanimity. I think that's what Swami is trying to tell us again and again. This world, don't get caught up in this world. Hold on to that which is permanent, that which does not change. Thank you very much. I hope that answers your question, sister. Because the presence of, when we realize that grace is there, everything is auspicious. When we forget that the grace is not there, everything is inauspicious. So both are dependent on that grace, and that grace is the one which makes anything happen. So just don't worry about either auspiciousness or inauspiciousness. Just hold on to the Lord, the grace of the Lord, for the compassion of God.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the clarification.
Brother Aruna, I want to have a clarification. You were mentioning about the pleasure and the pain. Is that the one the Swami is mentioned on the previous passage? Swami is making a note here, the beats on the, let me read this. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. So we are passing through all that you said now, one after the other, as beats in a string. Is that the one that you are referring to, the pleasure and the pain?
Yes, brother. Yes. I think Swami has talked about it so many places. Nityam, Anityam, Shubham, Ashubham, permanent, impermanent, all that Swami has used. Because that the nature of the world is duality.
So in this, Sairam brother, in this case, then we can take it as the asubham as a something Swami is giving us to experience it, to learn from it. So that will eventually become a like a positive, something we have like learned something to realize the God kind of.
Yes.
That's the way we can take it the asubham. I think that's based on your explanation. I think like that. Thank you.
That's what Brother Aruna explained that very good actually. So it is both when we look at it as only grace, we only think of grace because we don't think of subham or asubham. So when the grace is there, everything looks subham. That's what Aruna said. When we go higher in spiritual happy, and we feel that everything is subham. That's what the people Ananya Bhakti, the people who had a lot of Ananya Bhakti, and in Dharma Raja also, you know, that when Draupadi was disrobed and he was not disturbed because for Dharma Raja, everything is subham because he is on God's thinking. So he thinking of the God's grace, and the God grace will do whatever it wants, and something like very good discussion. Thank you, Sai.
Sairam, sometimes when we want to start some new endeavor or something like that, people say it's good to start on an auspicious day. But if Swami is saying every day is auspicious, like, does that really matter?
Very good question, sister. So I will ask anyone else to comment on that.
Yeah, that does matter. Even Swami himself has observed that at least to some extent, to my knowledge. Maybe I don't know.
Thank you, Sai. Actually, Baba has been observing actually even the chariot, even the chariot was to be taken. Baba looked at auspicious time, no, for the golden chariot to be pulled. So whatever, because people believe all this, you know, the grahas and the effect, people believe. So Baba was satisfying the people desires. But Baba has said also that there are no 9 grahas, no 9 planets. Only 2 planets are there. One is Dvesa, Raga, and Dvesa, the attachment and hatred. So, and also Baba said Lord Krishna was born on Atami, the 8th day, and Rama was born on the 9th day, Navami day. But people shun both Atami and Navami, but the avatars have taken birth, chosen these days as auspicious. So real planets that affects us are both Raga Dvesa, attachment and hatred, hatred, desire and hatred. So for the worldly sense, we can see in many places this Ragu Gala was noted and things were done in Baba's sphere. Thank you, Sairam. Others can explain. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, Swami has even, I read, I think in Sanasari, devotees experience something, no, devotee, the gardener or someone, very, who regularly does service at Prashanti, was brought something, sari or whatever, something to be blessed by Swami for his daughter's wedding. And Swami asked him, but he didn't bless and he was worried. he was sad and all that. After some time, Swami went in, and then later he came and blessed. And he told Swami, when I went before, I had to wait till the Rahugala finished. That's why I didn't bless you before. And all that. So many, there are so many things like that. So, worldly level, until, maybe we become jnanis or whatever, these things matter. So it all depends on this side.
Sairam, brother.
Sairam, brother. So one day at Puttaparthi, they wanted to have a big yajna. So Swami said, okay, we can have it on Saturday or 9 o'clock. Then all the priests said, no, the time is not good, 9 o'clock. We'll have it around 7:30. Then everything was ready, and by the 7:30 they had to make rain and everything, and they couldn't do it. So the auspicious time is not there then. So that means if the God grace, we can do any time if the blessing is there. Thank you, Saira.
Sairam, brother. So, Sister Kalyani, I think maybe I will attempt to say. The thing is, I think before you answer your question, I will address what Sister Brother Sivadas mentioned.
Swami also says, what can the Navagrahas do when you have my Anugraha?
Yeah.
Sairam, Swami also says, what can the Navagrahas do when you have my Anugraha or grace? But then how much do we really, totally, unconditionally believe in him or in his grace? So when there's that element of doubt, then I think it's okay to follow the Ragu Kalam and look at times and all.
So sister. I think this is a topic which confuses everyone. Okay. So maybe we'll dwell in it a little bit because the Sister Kalyani asked the question. See, in this world, for everything there's a proper time. If you want to plant some trees, say if you want to cultivate vegetables, if you in the middle of winter, if you go and plant in your backyard, you can pray to God and you plant. Will the trees grow? Of course, if you're like Valmiki with that kind of devotion, maybe it will grow. But the thing is, in this world, there are things, the laws of nature govern. So why is the winter cold? Because the sun has moved southwards from wherever we are. So it is cold. So it's icy. So that time is not proper. It's not a propitious time. Rather than Shubha Muhurtam is a word which is used. It's not a propitious time because what you intend to do will not fructify if the environment and the circumstances are not proper. So that the reason why we looked at planets is though in today's world, if you want to look at the time, you look at the hour hand, the minute hand, and the second hand. 3 hands you look at. They're continuously moving. But you look at it and say, is it 12 o'clock means then you know that the hour hand and the minute hand have come to 12. And then you go and do something which you have to be done at 12 o'clock. So that means there are 3 moving objects and you study how they are and then decide. It is just that in the ancient time, they looked at the 9 planets as the moving hands of time. And depending on where each of them is posited, the proper propitious time was chosen to do anything. Just the way we look at a clock, they looked at this cosmic clock, which comprises of 9 movements. And then you choose the time, which is the most appropriate. People have certain knowledge of, it's like even if you want to do farming, the person who does farming knows what is a good time to plant a seed. You can't plant something in the summer and expect a crop. The timing is very, very important when you till the land, when you plant the seeds. So, because when a person who knows when it's going to rain, when it's going to be sunny, and you have to work with it. So, these Navagrahas are just that. They affect how the world functions in multiple levels, in all levels, in the physical, mental, and so that is why, that is the way this world is created. But then Swami talks about why are you worried about the grahas? when anugraha is their statement. I think two people have stated that. What it basically means is people get scared of the grahas. Swami says, why are you scared? See, doing at the right time should not be based on fear. Fear, oh, the Saturn has moved, so everything is going to be bad, and people suffer. Actually, the planets are not trying to harm. They're just doing their job. But the thing is, people are worried about it. Then Swami, for that, says, don't think that this planet and that planet is going to harm you when my anugraha is there. But he will say, what actually will harm you is your raga, your desha, your kama, krodha. The bad qualities will harm you, not the grahas. The grahas are not bad. They are just doing their job. It's like fire. Fire is it trying to burn? No, the fire is just doing its job. But if you go close, if you put your hand in, you will burn. There's nothing wrong. You don't have to be afraid of the fire. You need to know what's the nature of the fire and work accordingly. If it's cold, then fire is definitely helpful. So it is a matter of choosing how to use it is more important, not out of fear. Because people are worried about Saturn movement, some astrology will say. So the thing is, I think we should separate these two. There's something called propitious time for a variety of activities which we undertake, not only for the successful completion, also for the benefit of the world. So for both sake, you have to look at the appropriate time and do. It's like, if you're at the traffic light, if the red light is on, you should not take the car. If it turns green, you then take the car. What are you looking? You are looking at two colors, and people can, if a person who doesn't know anything about traffic or accidents, will say, just say, believe in God and take when the red light is on, means you are harming yourself and you are harming everyone else. So the person who wants to learn to drive should know what are the lights, what do they say, what sign, follow the signs for your benefit and others' benefit. Not out of fear, oh, it's red, it's going to harm me, it's green, it's harm me. It is not that. So I think we need to know the planets are created, astrology as a subject is there. Use it properly, intelligently, without fearing the planets. Fearing, you should only fear bad qualities and bad thoughts in our mind. That also will not harm you. Nothing will harm. When anugraha is God is there, who is always a protective force. So I hope you touched on all the points so that we understand properly what it is. And that is why Swami came and he also showed, as a person who has taken a human birth, follow the certain guidance which rishis have stipulated, not out of a sense of fear. And I think we always talk about Krishna born on Ashtami and Rama born on Navami. Their life was not a bed of roses. They suffered a lot. But that apart, even though they suffered a lot, they were able to bring out divinity. So, but basically Swami says, if you can bring that kind of divinity out of your life, you can be born on Ashtami, you can be born on Navami. It's not a bad luck per se. Even with all the challenges and trials and troubles they faced, tribulations, they led the most positive life and inspired millions for ages and ages. So that's what Swami means by trying to reach divinity and cultivating divinity. We can overcome any challenge, any bad time also. So those are some of the points I thought I will discuss based on whatever was discussed so far. Saira. Anyone else would like to say something, please? Sairam, Sister Kalyani, I think then you can read on.
Bhakta. Everything appears as a puppet show now, Swami, but only off and on. The mind forgets and gets caught by the fascination of the objects. What mystery is this, Swami? Swami. Well, the mind is associated with all kinds of activities or vrittis. It always follows the trail of the vasanas, or trails of impulses and instincts. This is its very nature. Bhakta. That is as much to say, we cannot set it right? Then what is the hope? Ultimately, Swami, have we to get immersed in vasanas and become degraded? Swami, there is hope, my boy. No need to get immersed and lost. Though it is its nature, it can be changed. Charcoal has as its nature blackening all that it gets mixed with. But you should not take that as final. When fire enters it, the charcoal becomes red. So too, though the mind is always wandering in the illusion of darkness, when through the Lord's grace, the fire of jnana enters it, its nature changes, and the sattvic, serene, pure nature pertaining to the divine comes into it.
Sairam, sister. I think Swami is introducing the concept of vasanas. Just, I don't know, for anyone's... vasanas are nothing but tendencies with which we are born. These vasanas trail us birth after birth. They come along with us. That is one of the things which goes from birth to birth. So these tendencies which we cultivate in our life is definitely going to follow into our next life. They're called vasanas. So that's what Swami is saying. And these vasanas dictate how our mind works, how our mind gets distracted. And then Swami is saying, when the bhakta is so worried that there's no way out of this, Swami says, don't worry. Even though its nature is that your vasanas will determine your nature, you can always overcome by associating yourself with the fire of jnana. For that, Swami gives the example of a charcoal, which is black in color in its natural state, but you put it in fire, it turns red. And as long as it is in touch with the fire, it's red. So that's the analogy Swami is giving. And Swami says that red color from the fire is the sattvic nature in us. And that's what we have to cultivate, is what I sort of understand. I will pause here, and anyone in the group can share your thoughts, please.
I think there's a key thing there is through Lord's grace, the fire of jnana enters. So to get God's grace, maybe our sadhanas, intense sadhanas and intense devotion might draw God's grace through us, but ultimately God's grace only can do that. Sairam.
Sairam, brother. Anyone else would like to add?
Sairam, so vasana can be good and or bad, correct?
Yes, sister, that's my understanding, Sairam.
I read somewhere, so I don't know, can clarify this, whether bad impulses are referred to as vasanas and good impulses are referred to as samskaras. I would like, I don't know, to clarify.
Okay, so a good thought, brother. Vasanas can be positive and negative, but samskaras is basically when we turn the bad vasanas into good vasanas. So, for example, if you take the sattvic nature, that is also a vasana, but that is a good vasana. Is my understanding, because sometimes words tend to get used in a negative sense in some cases. For example, people say if something happens to them, they will say, "Oh, my prarabdham," or "my karma is that." So generally, because we think all karma is bad. No, all karma is not bad. Though people say because of your karma you are suffering, that doesn't mean all karmas are bad. So same thing applies to the vasanas also. Bad vasanas take us down, and that they have to be addressed through the process of what Swami says, samskarana, samskriti, or through proper refinement, we can make it pure. But that also becomes a vasana, a good vasana. If you, for example, Vasana basically means smell. There is this very popular mantra, I think everyone chants the Trayambaka mantra. In that says Trayambakam Yajamahi Sugandhim. Basically it means good smell. What basically that Sugandha is actually good vasanas. Otherwise, why should we tell God has good smell? It's perfume or something like that. It's not. What it basically means is one who makes everything smell good. He cultivates sugandhim, suvasana, so good vasanas. So that's why in even while prayers we say dhupam, we put sugandham. Because any perfume or rose water or something is offered, because they all signify cultivating good vasanas in us. So vasanas, if you want to use the word sugandha, good smell as the positive one, but the process of refinement is called samskara. Samskara means activities which refine us is called samskara. Sam means good, kara means to do. To make it good, making it good is samskaras. I hope. But sometimes the word samskara is used interchangeably with vasanas also. But that is my understanding, so I thought I will just share my understanding. Sairam.
So, Sairam brother, so vasana is a collection of thoughts. So that is the one bringing the life and the death cycle. And so if you want to get rid of the other samsara, the worldly thing, so we have to, we have in our body, we have the divinity. So we have to develop that one. So it's like a charcoal. Charcoal have the red thing, the flame thing. So same thing, we have that one too. With the grace of God, we can develop that one. Sairam brother.
So vasanas, it's a minor observation. Vasanas are not necessarily thoughts. Vasanas are residues from our past actions and thoughts. They are residues, like seeds waiting to come, but they blossom into thoughts or actions. So vasanas are not necessarily thoughts. They flower as thoughts or actions. So it's a residue in seed form.
Thank you, brother.
Maybe is it more clear to say it's innate tendencies?
Yes, brother. Yes.
In this paragraph, Swami saying activities of the mind are vritti. So is that like a thought then?
So vritti is basically blossoming or expansion of something or growth of something is called vritti. Vritti is a Sanskrit word. In Tamil also we use the word vritti. In most Indian languages the word is vritti is that which grows. If something is growing, that's called vritti. So when the mind also continues to grow, the chitta in yoga they say, Swami also quotes this, yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Because what happens is this growth should not happen in the chittam, is what yoga is supposed to be. Because when you are only thinking of God, it does not have to grow anywhere. But in the world, it branches out into many different things and grows. So that is the vritti. Vritti is growth in a nutshell. Okay. But as a result of that vritti, it's like, once the tree branches out, in each branch you will have multiple leaves and flowers. Then it will branch out further, it will have more leaves, and so that growth is how the mind expands itself. And you have to trim it and make sure that it doesn't grow out like that. And that's the process of sadhana, from what I understand.
Thank you. And is there a relationship between raga and dvesha and vasanas? Like, are the vasanas the reason why we have certain likes and dislikes?
The vasanas are basically the residue of raga and dvesha. Your likes and if you like something very, very much, that impression of liking something is stored in your heart. For example, you ate ice cream and you liked it so much. That impression is stored in your heart, okay, as vasana. Next time you see an ice cream, right away that vasana blossoms, vritti, it grows out, and it says, oh, you remember that we had that day that ice cream, it was very tasty, we should go and buy it and drink, okay? So that triggers a lot of thoughts. So that vasana was the old memory of eating an ice cream, which you liked. So that liking an ice cream as a memory is stored here. That is what's called a vasana. But that will trigger thoughts, which is the vritti of the mind, when you suddenly see an ice cream again. So I hope I touched that.
So it sounds like the vasanas, if they're like the seed, or they're they're sort of subconscious, I guess.
Yes, sister.
So how can we change them if that's something we're born with?
Sadhana, God's grace, fire of jnana. So for example, so next time you see an ice cream, if you have learned between the last time you eat ice cream and now that ice cream is bad, okay, that's called the fire of wisdom. So what happens is, even if you see the ice cream, even if that vasana tries to rear its head, the fire of wisdom which says it is not good for you will approve that. So that vasana will not blossom into a vritti of thoughts with that knowledge, with that discrimination of that it is bad. So that's the fire of jnana, which once it enters your head, your mind, the vasana cannot, it's more or less burnt. It cannot rear its head. I hope.
Thank you, yes.
Okay, we will move on to
Sai
the
Ram,
next.
so before we close our eyes, in this lifetime, we should try and reduce all our attachments to people and things, right? Otherwise, it may continue as vasana.
Yes,
Over attachment.
yes, sister. In India, there's a tradition where whenever you go on pilgrimage, they say each time you go on a pilgrimage and come back, you have to give up something which you like. Swami makes a joke, he says it has become a joke, Swami says. Many people go to a pilgrimage and come, they're supposed to give up eating something which they like. So most people give up a bitter gourd apparently, because in fact they don't like, they give up. And Swami says that's not the purpose. Each time you go on a pilgrimage, when you come back, you should be one vasana less, is what Swami says. So actually, if we say each time we attend bhajan and come back, we will get rid of one vasana, one craving which we have. I think that will be the best way, that by the time we are old, we would have given up all our likes. It's a constant effort, sister. I think that's my understanding. Okay, Sister Kalyani, we can move on to the next.
I think it's the time. Time is up.
Okay, 10:19. Okay, thank you. It's a wonderful discussion so far today. I think there's enough for us to think and contemplate and maybe practice vairagya and attain equanimity. We can go and read the folk song again, I guess, if we want to, until we develop it. With those thoughts, we can close with Samasta Loka and Shanti. Om Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.